there, viewers, and welcome back to the Smell the Roses YouTube channel. I'm Flo Foster from Foster's Therapy, and I am the brand ambassador for Smell the Roses. I am here to talk to you about working posture. For some of us, we are seasoned professionals at this now, and we are used to working from home. But for others of us, we have some new challenges with childcare, with new dogs that weren't in the house before lockdown number 1. And it means that we all have something to learn about how to look after our posture whilst we are working. So having trained as a dancer, I'm very used to thinking about posture. And as a therapist, I deal with the consequences of bad posture. So we're going to look at how, when you are at home, how you can manage your posture. First and foremost, where do you work? Do you sit? Do you stand? For different people, standing can help. Some people, it really doesn't. It just makes their feet hurt. So you have to find what works for you. Now, some of us have already done that, as we are in the 4th lockdown, and maybe the 5th, and maybe the 6th, and we don't know what's going to happen. So the best thing to do is to make the most of the situation we're in and do the best we can. So whatever lockdown you are listening to this YouTube video in, let's have a go at improving your posture. So I am sat in a wooden chair with a wooden back. I will show you now. It is a rather normal wooden chair with a normal wooden back. Nothing fancy, just a chair that I would normally sit at for my dinner. It's a dining chair table and it's not very exciting. But the good thing is it's got a firm and hard base and a firm and hard back. For some people who need support, that's totally fine. People can get very expensive chairs that do incredible things for your posture, and I'm sure they are very well worth the money. But as someone who likes to do things cheaply, on a budget, and with things that are already in the home, I like to show you how we can do that easily and cheaply. I'm on a dining chair with a hard base and a hard back. For me, that's ideal, because then I can sit back and feel that support in the wooden back and in the wooden base. And I know that I've got a straight position for my spine to be supported. And if my back hurts, I can put a little cushion in my lower back there where it does naturally curve, and that's totally fine. Where I'm sat right now, I have 2 little cushions. These are normally on benches outside in the summer, but I'm using them underneath to just give myself that little bit of support, because for me, having that extra support is really helpful. So actually, maybe the chair itself doesn't feel particularly good, it's too hard, then find something that is going to cushion you that little bit more. But you don't want something that's too squishy, because you don't want to be like I was just then, kind of falling around the chair. You want something that gives you that nice strong base as you are sat. So now that we've found whatever chair we're in, I'd like you to try and sit slightly further forward. If you can, I'd like you to have your feet flat on the floor with a nice 90-degree angle at your knees. The disadvantage of not having your feet on the ground is that you end up getting tension and excessive kind of pressure in different parts of your body. You've got your feet on the ground, you've got that support, and it means that you're letting some of that kind of shape be supported through your knees rather than just through your lower back. If you're a bit like me, I've got quite short shins, so although I've got quite long legs, my feet don't always touch the floor. So in this chair, it doesn't. So what I would normally do, if I wasn't getting in and out of the chair as I just have been, I would have a small little cushion, or one of those flat cushions that I'm sitting on now. I will roll those up and I'll put that under my feet, so that when I'm sat here at the desk, I have something for my back and I have something to support my feet on the floor, so that that right angle is being maintained. So we've got our feet on the floor or supported by some cushion or some small little bench, a right angle at the knees. We have our hips sat firmly on the chair, and preferably we want to have a straight spine. For some people, being sat back in the chair like I am now feels very wrong. It feels very far away. And when you bring your laptop forward, you still feel like you're doing this. You're kind of reaching forward to work on a laptop or on a computer. So I sometimes find supporting my lower back and ensuring that I can sit slightly further forward with a cushion and making sure that my arms and my elbows reach the table are really important. So that might mean that you need to bring your table further forward. so that you've got your elbows sat on the table, so that you're not working with this kind of position going on, so that you've got a bit of a velociraptor or T-Rex position going on as you work. You want to make sure that your wrist is supported, and preferably, if you can, also your elbow. Not always, as it's different for everyone. But ideally, you want to be in a position where you're sat upright on the chair, feet on the floor, and your elbows and your wrists on the table as well. And in this position, you're in much better stead to notice if you go into a bad position, because you've got points of contact that if you start slumping, you really notice that, because more pressure goes into one arm, or you find yourself kind of leaning to one side and one arm hurts a bit more. So this position really helps you to notice if you're not in the right position. So one thing, if you remember nothing else, is your sit bones. So most people will only know about their sit bones if someone tells you you've got very bony sit bones when you sit on them. It's not something which we are particularly well acquainted with, but actually this area, excuse me, is so important for finding how to sit up straight. If you imagine like a stack of Jenga, you've got lots of pieces that kind of interlock that sit on a base. Now, if you took that base and you slid one of those really far forward, it would probably start to tip and it will probably fall. So if you imagine your body needs to have those two Jenga blocks at the bottom that is nice and stable. You can have one slightly forward, but you will find over time it is likely to start to tip. Same with your hips. If you have a wallet in your back pocket or you're sat with your legs crossed, then you're going to find that you are going to be tipping your body at an angle that's going to make the rest of your body try and compensate, which we don't want. So what you want is those two bones sat evenly on the chair. So if you're a lady or even a man, but definitely more with ladies, I find, if you're well endowed in the lower department, in the gluteus maximus region, then you may have to just lift the side of your hips ever so slightly out and just rock slightly just to find that sit bone. Because it's not always really easy to get to, because the glutes are there to support if you fell over, and it's a big muscle that's there to help kind of push you forward when you walk and you exercise. So yeah, you might have to separate the glutes slightly further out just so that you can kind of find those two sit bones. And as you can see, I like to wiggle around to feel them. But once you found them, you'll feel like those two grounding pegs kind of sat evenly in what feels like the ground. And that's what you want. You want a bit like with a tent, you want the tent pegs to be pulling the strings so that it holds everything tight. So if you imagine your neck and your head is like the tent, and the bottom here are your pegs, and the muscles that go from right under the back of your neck all the way down to the bottom of your spine, they're like the strings of the tent. So you've got this tent here that needs to be held upright, and you have the pegs that are holding the strings down in the sit bones. So if those aren't grounded and worked really deeply into the ground, you end up with a tipping. And that's what we get when we slump backwards and forwards. When we sit like this and we work like that, or we sit like this and we work like that, we're working the muscles in the back and the front of our kind of postural muscles in our neck, in our back, in our hips. All of those muscles around here and in our shoulders are overworking to compensate for what should be stacked like Jenga. So when you're sat like this, you're working less muscles, you're not going to exhaust yourself as quickly, and you're going to have less tension. Now, it's an ideal. No one has it all of the time. But being aware of it is the most important step, because awareness means you'll start to correct yourself. And that, at the end of the day, is all we can ask for, because we get into habits, and to get out of those habits takes time and energy. So I would like you to try that at home. Try that on your sofa. Try that whilst you're working. If you have a chair that doesn't suit you, then that's something which, for some people, you can afford to change, but for some people you can't, and that's totally fine. So it might be putting something slightly firmer, whether it's a board or some kind of harder cushions, kind of onto your chair so that you've got that firmer shape. Or maybe it's just using a little stool or even a kiddie chair. I know loads of people have like tiny little wooden chairs that are great as well. So just find something that works for you, where you can feel those sit bones kind of right down in the ground, and you'll feel it kind of, it makes you want to sit up straight. And when you find that, you'll feel a lot less tension as you're working, and it's just an ideal thing to keep on checking in with, just to make sure that you're not exhausting your muscles and building more tension than you need. So that's all for now on working posture. I'll be back with you soon to share some more working posture tips, but for now, I hope you're all safe and well, and take time to stop and smell the roses.